Patrick.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
Good morning, everybody. Wake up in Provincetown. This week featuring Wake up.
Are you done?
Can I have some coffee? Wake up. Make it strong, please.
What's the date?
Hey.
The 23rd.
Oh. Hey.
Good morning, Provincetown. It's Friday, April 23rd. Thank you so much for joining us on Wake Up today.
Yeah, welcome to Wake Up in Provincetown. If you are watching on Facebook, please scoot over to our YouTube page. We're trying to get everyone together on YouTube so that way everyone can comment together and chat while the show's happening. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and also hit like on this video right now. Right now.
Now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can catch all of our past interviews, episodes, performances. We've got a great show for you today. We have our third and final select board candidate coming to talk to us. Lise King is here today.
Yes, and I chatted with Travis from the Boy Band Project this week about them coming back to Provincetown, the formation of their group, and it was a lot of fun. We're also going to show you one of their music videos from them as well. That's all Provincetown-centric.
Where did the Boy Band Project spend their winter?
PV.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
great. I don't want to spoil your interview then. We'll get to that when we get to it. So how was your week, Harry?
My week was actually really fun, kind of eventful. Got some...
It was eventful?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. Like how?
I mean, one of the most exciting things, a lot of exciting things happened to me this week, but one of the really exciting things was we were back here on the patio for trivia.
That's right.
Yeah. So all winter we've been doing our trivia virtually, either from Bob or my house. And streaming into the brewery for the people that are here playing, which was always a good crowd, but nothing too crazy. And we had a lot of teams play virtually, but we were able, because the weather was nice, to do it outside here on the patio, and it was a nice little crew. It felt really great to be back in person.
A lot of our friends and regulars were playing online and here in person. It's just so much more fun in person when you can interact with everybody.
Totally.
So thank you everybody that came and played with us,
Yeah.
near and far.
Yeah. Follow Provincetown Brewing Company's Instagram page, and we'll keep you updated on whether we're going to be doing it in person or outside in the future, because it is all weather dependent at the moment.
And it's winter again.
Yeah. This past week or two has been wild.
Yeah.
It's like winter on Tuesday, summer on Wednesday, winter on Thursday, summer on Friday.
Tomorrow it's going to be spring again. Should we do weather now?
Yeah, let's do weather.
I think it's going to be 64 and sunny tomorrow.
Yeah, today's going to be just like not super cold, but windy, which is going to make it feel really cold.
As windy as yesterday, because I almost fell off my bike.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up there again.
I was biking on Bradford Street. Mistake. Like, take Commercial, you guys. It's a lot less windy down on Commercial, especially if you're out here in the East End. So windy, like bad.
Yeah, I was running on Route 6, and it was hard because
Running on Route 6?
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Why?
Because I feel like that's super windy. That's even windier than down here.
it was really windy. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta
But
be
like,
careful.
I don't love running with a mask on because I find it challenging. So I try to run where I'm not going to run into any people.
Me too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hate running with a mask on.
Yeah. But another exciting thing about trivia that I just wanted this week I did things my mom likes as a round.
That's right.
It was her birthday last weekend, so that was a lot of fun to be able to share all the things my mom likes, like Cowtails and TJ Maxx, and yeah.
Your
it's
mom's
really
so
cute.
sweet because she sent us a little tip on Venmo, and then she sent another one and said, "For Eric, the flute player."
She texted me. She said she couldn't find his Venmo.
In all caps with like 8 exclamation marks. For
She's
Eric.
like, not for you, two jerks.
Eric was like, "Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
His mom is so sweet. How did he end up the way that he is?" I'm editorializing. Eric didn't say that. I said it.
Great. Yeah, but Sunday is also going to be rainy.
Rainy on Sunday.
Yeah.
You guys, unfortunately, this is the first weekend post-clamming season, so that's all over. So I'll no longer be telling you when the low tide is. We're back to high tide happy hours for the spring. High tide this morning was at 8:40. It already happened, but by Sunday it's going to be at 10:30 in the morning. So if you want to do your like high tide beach walking, it's still a little cold out there, but it's always so beautiful to walk along the beach at high tide. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we should do like low tide sunsets too, because those are the best.
Ooh, you're right.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. new segment coming soon to a computer screen near you.
How was your week? What did you get up to?
Oh, I finally got to go to Strangers and Saints last night. More and more restaurants are opening, as people are finding out. Front Street opened back up on the 15th. Strangers and Saints opened back up. I went last night. A lot of fun, exciting new items on their menu, as well as the classic favorites that you always go there for, like the sausage mushroom pizza.
Do they still have the like duck mac and cheese?
No, they didn't. They had duck pappardelle,
Oh, cute.
which was really delicious.
What sauce is it?
Duck sauce? No, not duck sauce. It was like a light sort of. There was like spring peas.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, it was like all the flavor of the duck. There wasn't
Great.
like a whole lot of sauce.
That duck
on it.
mac and cheese was to die for.
I know, and it had like the legs sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Don't you love that reminder that it was once a creature that walked the earth?
Yeah.
I love when bones are sticking out of my food. No, but it's so great that all these restaurants are opening back up. Town has been so busy. So Monday night in April, this place was full of people playing trivia. It's going to be, I mean, we say this every week lately, but you know, everything I'm about to say is true. You know that the Provincetown, what's the motto for their town is, you belong here.
Right.
They've decided to change it this year.
Really?
Yeah.
To what?
It's the motto this year is, now hiring, bring a tent.
Cute.
That's the Provincetown motto for 2021. It's
Great.
true. No,
Yeah.
we need to actually probably talk to somebody at the PBG or the tourism board on this show soon. I know you guys are watching. We'd love to have
Yeah.
you on and talk about what's going to happen this summer, because it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, me and Bob are obviously going to feel firsthand the worker shortage, because we're not going to have as many employees that we usually have at the Red Inn. But we also know that at the Red Inn we're very lucky, because we always get like a hearty staff, where I know other places it's harder.
By the time we do the show next week, you will have worked your first night at the Red Inn.
So bittersweet.
We come back on the 29th, next Thursday.
That's real. It's very exciting, but like I've grown accustomed to the life of leisure.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm excited to get back to work, see everyone, see all my coworkers. Yeah.
The work life pays for the life of leisure.
That's true, I guess.
You have to have one to have the other.
Yeah. I also did something really exciting this week. I went to Nantucket.
Oh, right. How was that?
I had never been to Nantucket before, and I was mentioning to Julian that I hadn't been really off Cape all winter. There was a few visits to my parents, things like that, but nothing substantial. And he's like, well, I have next week off. Let's go somewhere. He did a little bit of work, because he also represents the Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, the rest, most of the Cape. So it was like half work, half enjoyment. But the work brought some perks.
Like, what kind of work did you do with Julian?
I guess we toured the dispensary that is on Nantucket.
Oh, I didn't know they had one.
Yeah, it's called the Green Lady. He's like, we're gonna tour the what's the word? Dispensary. Jesus.
Wow.
We're gonna tour the dispensary, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And I kind of expected someone to be like, yeah, like look around or something. But they were so happy to see Julian. They were so appreciative and thankful, because Julian has specifically like kind of modified some language in some of the marijuana dispensary bills, so that they specifically could have their dispensary. Because Nantucket's an island, they can't ship marijuana on or off the island, because if it ships, it goes into like federal jurisdiction.
Oh. So they have to grow all their own weed on Nantucket.
They have to grow all their own weed on Nantucket. They also have to test all their own weed on Nantucket, because you know how every time you buy weed it has like that little slip. They do all of that right in house. So we got to see their testing facilities, which was so cool. It was like a full chemistry set, and we got to talk to their chemist, who was teaching us about how all the stuff works and how they do extractions and make gummies. We toured their grow room, and what's extra exciting about this dispensary specifically, it was the first Black-owned and the first female-owned dispensary in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh, work, Nantucket.
Yeah. It's a family operation. Their two daughters are heavily involved. It was really sweet. They walked around, they were chatting with all their workers. All their workers were excited to see us and chat with us and share with what they were doing. It was really awesome.
Did you buy anything that like salmon colored, that Nantucket like pink?
No. That was like so high school for me.
Really?
Yeah, my high school is very like pretending to be Nantucket. A lot of pink pants, a lot of pearl necklaces, stuff like that.
You didn't stay the night?
No, we just went for the day. It was cute though. We took the ferry in, the ferry back out. It was weird, because it was like all felt like P-Town but different. I feel like the biggest difference about Nantucket is it's much bigger, and they have a lot of like aesthetic ordinances. Every building on the whole thing is clapboard.
Yeah.
And there's no signs that are like bigger than this. So you'd be like, oh, these houses are so cute. And then you look close and you're like, oh, that's a general store and that's a clothing store. And it just looks like a neighborhood of houses. It's cute.
The people, the people are like that too. The first time I ever went to Nantucket, you step off the ferry and you're so excited to be somewhere new. There was this woman standing there who literally was like, I'm like, why is she looking at my shoes? Like, what? This bitch is judging me for wearing sandals to Nantucket. I'm sorry that they weren't salmon, lady. Or whatever they call that color. Nantucket pink, rose?
Nantucket red.
Nantucket red?
Yeah. But Julian's friends were so gracious. They gave us like the full tour. They showed us around. Susan, Barbara, and Tom were all incredible. And it was also typically what would be happening this weekend is the Daffy Festival, I think it was called.
Daffy?
I think something like that, like Daffy Weekend. But it's to celebrate all the daffodils.
Oh,
and they're like
cute.
covered the whole island. So
Oh,
you're driving
I
around.
bet
There's
that's
just-
so pretty.
It was gorgeous. But it was so nice to see a community that's kind of similar to ours and how they do things. And it was so cute. They had such a great little community.
Julian, the next time you go to Martha's Vineyard, I want to be the work husband on that trip. He got to go to Nantucket.
It was so cute.
I want to go to the Vineyard. Vineyard Haven. Edgartown.
Yeah.
There's really only like one town on Nantucket, right?
There's 6, I think.
6? I feel like Martha's Vineyard is a whole bunch of
Oh,
towns.
Nantucket, no, Martha's Vineyard has 6, Nantucket does have 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you rent bikes?
No, his friends drove us around and they were very gracious to be our chauffeurs for the day.
Let's see. I went with Clay and Eric Borg one time and we rented bikes and had the best. Remember that, Eric? Where'd he go? That was fun, right? We need to go back to Nantucket. Return to Nantucket. You had a really fun-filled week.
I really did.
You did a lot.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you.
I need
You're
to-
cramming it all in
I need
before
to, like,
work.
get stuff in before I'm working 24/7 again.
You guys, Jonathan, do you have the picture? We're going to do our birthday call now. This is a person that means very, very much to us, professionally and personally. He is definitely the MVP at work.
Yeah, totally.
Patrick works with us at the...
Hello?
Patrick Lamerson,
Yes.
happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is everyone looking at the picture now? There's a picture of you with a green beard and green hair on the screen. We're calling you from the set of our show.
Hi, Patrick. Happy birthday.
Live call out, just like Regis and Kathy Lee.
Exactly like that.
Exactly like Regis and Kathy Lee. What do you have planned for your birthday?
I'm putting on eye makeup right now for work.
He's
Cute.
putting on eye makeup for work. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do. We really value you as a friend and a colleague.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there was a birthday look, but obviously that was a stupid question.
Well, all we have are our eyes these days, right? So you
That-
gotta go with them.
Yeah, you got to play them up.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Patrick. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
You're
Take
welcome.
care. Bye.
We love
I
Patrick.
do love Patrick.
Another exciting thing happened this week.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Do you need a sip of water?
I
or
do.
something?
I need some coffee.
Our dear friend João Santos released some music this week again. You saw him this past December perform his new holiday single, but this week he has 2 singles out. One is him featuring Olivia Lux from RuPaul's Drag Race, and the other is Olivia Lux featuring him. And they're both really incredible. One's called The Game and one is called A Stranger's House. You can check those out on Apple Music, Spotify, all of the above. I think we have the album art up now. Great. And João and Olivia have been friends for a few years. They've performed together, they've written songs together, and it's so great to see Olivia gain this incredible platform and kind of share it with João a little, and I can't wait to see them blow up. These songs are really incredible, so be sure to check them out. Yeah. Are you excited for the Drag Race finale tonight?
I am. I told you we're not on the same team though.
I don't know. I think there's many options that I'll be happy with.
Yeah.
What's your team? You're Simone?
No, I'm Gottmik.
Okay. I kind of hope Gottmik wins as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You change it every week. You're different.
I thought about it. I want Gottmik to win. I think she deserves it the most. And like I said last week, I no longer am rooting for who I think should win or who I want to win, but also who I am least excited to see on All Stars. And I know that's going to sound crazy, but I think I'm least excited to see Gottmik because I think Gottmik is going to give, if she's on a season of All Stars, it'll just be more of kind of the same level she's been working at because she's working at such a high level, where I feel like the other 3 will come back in a year or 2 or more and come back on All Stars and have grown so much and show us and really have leveled up. And that's what I really like about All Stars, is seeing how they use their fame and their platform to really level up the look and the performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But that also means that you don't want to see Gottmik on All Stars.
I just explained that it's because I think she would have the least amount of growth because she's already like so top notch.
But she did so much growth in this season, she could grow even more.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I love
We'll
them all.
see.
I'm excited for the finale.
You love all 4 of them?
Yeah.
I don't.
Wow.
I love 3 of them.
Who don't you like?
Doesn't matter.
Jesus.
I don't want to be that person. It's so early.
You
We're gonna talk about
You just
hatred.
want to like almost be that
If we're going to
person.
talk about people that I hate,
Ooh, let's do it.
can we talk about the Senate bill that passed 94-1 in favor of the anti-Asian hate law?
Let's
One-
take a moment and celebrate that passed
Okay.
in
No, you're right.
overwhelming majority.
Overwhelming 94-1.
Mm-hmm. Who's this one?
Candy Muse. Oh, we're talking about the Senate? Josh Hawley, who I hope chokes on a chopstick someday.
Yeah, he's
if I
kind of the
actually,
worst.
if I'm a Buddhist and I'm not allowed to wish harm on people, but karma, bitch.
Right. From cheering on the insurrectionists.
Yeah, that dude
Yeah.
sucks.
Kind of the worst.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go back to talking about things that we love. Wait, don't you have a rant
I do have a rant.
in your pocket? Let's continue to talk about things that bother us.
Yeah. So things are opening back up, which for me and Bob means we're going to be getting back to work in restaurants, and I know a lot of people are strapping on their aprons once again. And I want to talk about one of my biggest pet peeves in a restaurant.
Do tell.
One of my least favorite things is when people do this like performative, dramatic, like Oscar-worthy performance of being really upset when people pay for them. It's so often that groups of friends want to go out and a person wants to pay and the other person wants to pay, which I don't understand. Like, I get wanting to treat your friends,
But you
like,
don't understand wanting to pay.
well,
Me neither.
kind of that. But like, I understand wanting to treat your friends and everything, but like starting a fight over it, and which often turns to physical altercations of like throwing credit cards in bartenders' faces. And I just want to demonstrate the appropriate reaction when someone pays for you. Tell me you're going to pay for my dinner.
Harry, it's on me tonight.
Oh my God, you don't have to do that. Thank you so much.
Don't touch me. That's it. You're paying for yourself now.
Great. But that is the appropriate response. Don't be upset when
you're right.
The dramatic, like, oh my God, I'm so mad my friend paid for me.
It's all a show.
It's so stupid. Just stop doing it.
But don't you love it when they chase you down to give you the credit card?
No.
Like you're on your way to the bathroom for a break because you've been there for 12 hours and somebody comes running up to you, give you a credit card?
Yeah.
You love that.
I love when like half the staff is like, there's someone looking for you, they're somewhere. I'm like, great.
There's someone looking for you somewhere.
Yeah. Honestly, the person I want to pay is whoever's going to tip me the most.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
When people are like, take my card, no, take my card. I'm like, which one
Who's
of
gonna
you?
tip better?
Yeah. 25, do I hear 30%? Do I hear 35%? People need, I need like fans, like at an auction.
I think
Yeah.
that should be our response from now on. We'll auction off. But you have to get the
We're very excited to see everybody back at work, you guys.
No, we really are.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I feel like it's about manners and politeness.
Right. Just say thank you.
Yeah, say
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that your rant about Candy Muse or Josh Hawley?
Yeah, I was just going to rant about Josh Hawley. I need
That's
to stop.
Bob's drag name. Candy Hawley.
Ew. I am so mad at you right now.
Candy Muse is amazing and incredible and kind and nowhere near as much of a monster as Josh Hawley because she's
Well,
not a monster
totally,
at all.
no.
I just want to be clear, we're not equating the two.
Yeah, we're comparing apples to candy.
Yeah, we're comparing Gottmik to Candy, and on the other hand, we're comparing AOC to Josh Hawley.
Did you you interviewed Travis, right? It's not just a performance that we're going to
Yeah,
watch?
I have a chat with Travis from the boy band project. Yeah, let's do that now. We're going to show the interview, and then we're going to go straight into a really incredible Provincetown themed music video by them.
Good morning, Travis. Welcome to Wake Up in Provincetown.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting up so early and joining us.
Oh, anything for Provincetown. Anything
Perfect.
for Provincetown. Seriously.
Yeah, speaking of Provincetown, we just announced your dates at the Crown for this summer. It's going to be the 18th and 19th of August. You're going to be back.
Yep.
Congrats.
Thank you, Carnival Week. We're very excited
Perfect.
about it.
You performed at the Crown for Carnival Week and also a few times last year.
Yeah, so last year obviously was a weird year for everybody, and my husband and I actually relocated to P-Town because it's our favorite place in the world, and we rented a condo for 5.5 months, and then my bestie Jonathan was like, "You're here, let's do a show," and so we didn't think we were going to get to. I mean, nobody thought they were going to perform, but he was able to get us a spot in that beautiful outdoor venue that they have by the pool. So we did one last year in 2020. And then in 2019, we did a full week for Carnival when everything was normal. And then in 2018, we performed at Holly Folly with our Christmas show.
Awesome. Yeah, Jonathan does a really good job of dragging people on stage through the pandemic, which we were also thankful for, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, it was just it really made me realize how healing, our art is and our music to do. And like, no matter what it is, even like stupid boy band music, it's just like, oh, like I feel like a human now. Thank you for this opportunity.
So speaking of, like, I guess, stupid boy band music, when did you guys kind of form, and when did you guys kind of decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, so it's interesting though, because the boy band has literally followed me around my entire life. Obviously, when I was in high school, I was really obsessed with like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and O-Town and 98 Degrees and stuff. And then I went to college for musical theater at Boston Conservatory. And then when I graduated, I did a bunch of tours and regional stuff. But the most significant show that I did was I did a show called Altar Boys off-Broadway.
I love that show.
It's so much fun, right? It's about a boy band.
Yeah.
And I did 555 performances of it. And I closed the show off-Broadway, and then I finished it. And I was working regionally and stuff. And my friend Chris, who's in the group, Chris Messina, he's the sporty one. And we were on the beach, and I was like, what if we did this group where we take our Broadway friends and we just like kill these 90s, early 2000 boy band songs, but with like Broadway caliber talent, So because they were at that time, they were getting a little older. That was about 2010. And so they weren't quite the magnificence that they were in their day. And so what if we kind of reimagine that? And then it didn't happen for like 4 years. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to make this happen. I wanted to start something of my own and create like sort of like a business sense. And we got started with it. And like anything, it takes forever to get it off the ground, but it slowly started to pick up. And now it's turned into the only thing that I do, which is so amazing.
How did you land on you being the boy next door?
It's interesting. So initially I was actually the sensitive one. Because I was when I was in Altar Boys off-Broadway, I played Mark. And they always called Mark the sensitive one because it was like the gay one, And so I was like, oh, I'll continue to do that. And then I started making the show, and there was this guy in the cast, so I'm not going to say his name. Jonathan knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He's so sensitive, like literally, like the wind would blow the wrong way, and he would like break down. And so I was like, oh, you have to be the sensitive one.
Right.
And we were like, what's a name that they could give me? And so they were like the boy next door, because I don't know, I guess I look like one, but that's
You're like, I guess I look like one.
Yes. I'm 37, so give it to me. I'll do it.
Right. You named a lot of influences, but what's your number one boy band if you had to really choose?
Wow. I would have to say Backstreet Boys.
Interesting.
Because I feel like they really, they were the OG contemporary boy band. I guess New Kids on the Block was before then, but Backstreet Boys kind of like really made it a thing. It wasn't just like playing around.
Yeah.
But like, this is massive. And then NSYNC came after because they were made by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like a copycat, but they just, they were influenced by Backstreet Boys. So it's hard not to pay homage to them 100%.
Right.
I
very much like only have most of my experiences seeing the boy band project on stage has been connected to Jonathan Hawkins, so I always imagined that he was like your like Ron Perlman.
Oh my goodness. I mean, no, I would never.
Yeah, he's in jail now or something, right?
No, because he was awful. Jonathan is amazing. Jonathan has been such a supporter of Boy Band Project, and I couldn't be more grateful. I mean, he brought us to P-Town. I think we met, Jonathan and I do this opera group together, and we did one concert, and I told him about the show, and he told me he works at P-Town. I was like, can you get us at P-Town? And I think like the next week we had booked Holly Folly. And then, and anything he sees an opportunity for us, he slots us in. And so, I mean, he's more like part of the family. He's the sixth boy band or the fifth boy band member.
Right. So you were doing Puerto Vallarta this past winter, correct? How was that? How do the crowds there kind of compare to crowds here in P-Town?
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. It was a really fun time. We left New York and we got there January 28th or something. And then as soon as we got there, PV shut down for 2 weeks in lockdown. And we were like, thought we were supposed to perform the next day. It didn't happen. But it was blizzarding in New York. So here we were on the beach. Poor us, right? But anyways, we were sad we were going to perform. And then finally it did open up and it was okay. Like they made great efforts to keep everybody safe. So we always felt safe the whole time. There just weren't a lot of tourists there. So sometimes our show would be full. And by full, it was, only 50 tickets. And the audience sat in fish tanks, literally. But the audience is there because we would go flyer the beach every day and it would really work. Mm-hmm. But sometimes they thought they were coming to like a boy band club rave party because they would literally have Speedos on in the front row and they'd be like on something. And good for them. As long as they bought a ticket.
Right.
So,
and that's not the worst thing to look at in the front row, I imagine.
No. And like sometimes we'd be like, okay, then they're like, they think that they want to like interact and engage. And so after that, we've gotten really good at kind of like keeping the reins of a show and not letting the audience like derail what you're there to do.
Right. Especially in like gay, drunk tourist towns. That's probably a skill that comes in handy.
I know. I used to be terrified of it. And then I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just going to talk to you. And we are going to make this happen. And I'm going to appreciate your presence and you're going to appreciate mine. And we'll move on with our lives.
Cute. Well, we can't wait to have you back on the stage at the Crown and be able to see you perform again. We have a little teaser for our audiences today. We have one of your videos.
So this is our first original single. This is called Get Behind My Love. The music is by Michael Mott. He's a New York composer. And it was directed and produced by Hallelujah Creative and directed by Nathan Chang. And it has a special guest appearance by Thirsty Burlington, Provincetown Motto. And it was shot at the Muscle Beach Gym and in Dick Murray's hot tub.
Awesome. So it has P-Town all over it.
Yeah, it was kind of like our love letter to P-Town when we made it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, we will see you back here again on the Crown stage on the 18th and 19th. And let's take it away with your video. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Summer is almost here, but is your beach body here? Tonight, we'll find out how you can prepare yourself. Studies have shown that the number of sad women eating ice cream alone on the couch is drastically on the rise because of shows like Game of Thrones. All right, ladies, here we go. Let's lose that belly fat. Don't give up on me now. Come on. 5 more reps. 1.
Hey, girl. Me? Hey, girl. Hi. Hey, girl. Hey. For real, for real. Hey, girl. Hey. The boy band project.
I wanna sing you a song, I wanna string you along. I wanna tell you all the things I need to say. I feel it coming, I need you and my love is here to stay.
Baby, let's start over. I'll give up the fight. Lady, let me love you. It'll be just right. Girl, you know you, and my love's for real. So let me show you tonight. I'll get behind my love. I know my love was so scandalous, but you know another lover couldn't handle this fight. Baby, I have changed. Get behind my love. We're gonna make a new start again, and we're never ever gonna be apart again. I love you. So watch me get behind my love. Hey girl, hey, hey girl, hey.
The bad decisions I made had a price to be paid, and I'm sorry that our love was compromised.
Cause every lie that I told left you out in the cold, but it's over cause my love
Is undiscovered.
Baby, let's start over. I'll give up the fight. Lady, let me love you. It'll be just right.
Just right.
Girl, you know you, and my love's for real. So let me show you tonight. I'll get behind my love. I know my love was so scandalous, but you know another lover couldn't handle this fight. Baby, I have changed. Get behind my love. We're gonna make a new start again, and we're never ever gonna be apart again. I love you. I love you. So watch me get behind my love.
Hey girl, I know I've been tearing up your heart, but before you say bye, 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 give me just one night. It's all or nothing, baby. I'ma quit playing games with your heart so that you can get behind my love. Get behind. Boy, band, project.
I know my love was so scandalous, but you know another lover couldn't handle this fight. Baby, I have changed. Get behind my love. We're gonna make a new start again, and we're never ever gonna be apart again. I love you. So watch me get behind my love. I know my love is so scandalous, but you know another lover couldn't handle this fight. Baby, I have changed. Get behind my love. We're gonna make a new start again, and we're never ever gonna be apart again. I love you. Watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me get behind my love.
Oh my God, I look fabulous. Thank you, boy band. I think I better go out.
Our favorite Thirsty was right in it.
Thirsty, love you, girl.
So he was the guy next door. What would you be, Bob, if you were in a boy band?
What are my choices?
I don't know.
Guy next door, villain. Is one of them always the villain?
I think you're the villain. I just imagine like four guys being like, all being like, oh, come on. I imagine four guys all being like this, and you being in the corner like, I'd be Baby.
I don't think there's a baby in the book. That's a
Yeah.
Spice Girl thing. That's not a boy band thing.
Don't you binary me, Bob.
Oh, Christ. You guys, we forgot to mention, congratulations to David Drake and the Provincetown Theater. By a narrow 3-2 vote, they're allowed to do outside shows this summer.
That's very exciting.
It is very exciting, and it's very necessary. They weren't able to open it all last year, and it's hard enough for a theater to survive in the best of times. So we want to encourage everybody to go see the shows. I think they have 3 shows lined up for the summer.
Yeah,
no more than 3 actors per cast, correct? I think it's small cast. 4. Yeah, 4 is the maximum.
That's amazing. I think our town is the backbone of our town is performing and creativity and art. So it's great to see people be able to continue producing art in this trying time.
And there was quite a bit of pushback from the neighbors, I understand. 35 letters opposing the theater, which accounts for the 2 nay votes, I would imagine. But I'm really happy that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think everyone is kind of going a little outside of their comfort zone due to the pandemic, and I think that might be, I hope neighbors are willing to go outside of their comfort zone when it comes to a little bit of noise. That noise is art and creativity, so that's the noise we like around this town.
Speaking of outdoor performances this summer, a little birdie told me that Showgirls is happening outside somewhere.
That's cute.
Do you know where it's going to be?
No, it's a secret still.
Mark, do you know where it is?
It's a secret still.
You are such a bad liar. Mark is lying right to my face, you guys.
But that's really exciting. We really missed Showgirls last summer, and we're super excited to have them back.
I already know what I'm going to do for my first number.
Me too.
Wait, you're going to compete against me? I am going to be the villain. And
I guess we can call it compete. But
gauntlets have been thrown, you guys. Don't make me bring my golden piggy back into this tap room.
Right.
Just that's it. That's going to be on the desk from now on.
Another really exciting thing that happened this week was Earth Day. I didn't manage to get out yesterday, but I will be getting out this weekend to do a little beach cleanup. We highly encourage this weekend to do some beach cleanup in honor of Earth Day, and or along the trails, kind of anywhere. Like anywhere you look, there's going to be garbage. Pick it up.
I fully endorse like adopting a fire road. Remember Adopt a Highway when you were in high school? Like I think I'm going to, because there's always a bag of dog poo on the fire road. Whichever one of you is using purple and yellow bags, I'm on to you.
That one person, how dare you.
You guys, for our game today, we have a candle from our dear friends at Flotsam and Jetsam Goods, and they just announced their brand new website an hour ago.
Yeah. I think it's flotsamandjetsamgoods.com, but you can follow them on Facebook, and they did a post about their website, so you can go right there, and I think you can order right from their website, which is really exciting.
This is one of my favorites. It's called Calm Before the Storm. It's lavender, chamomile, white sage, rosemary, lemon peel, and cedar. Take a whiff of that.
Ooh,
right?
That's a good like anywhere scent.
Like beachy, summery.
Fresh, clean.
I love Flotsam and Jetsam so much. You can see them on Facebook and at their website. Whoever calls and guesses the movie that this iconic monologue is from and answers it correctly first is going to win this candle.
Great. So if you, you're gonna call in, the number is 617-676-7597. Today Bob is going to do a dramatic reading of a monologue. And I'll be on phone duty, so...
Plug the number in. Tell them one more time, Harry. What's the phone number?
617-676-7597.
Ready?
Awesome. Yeah, so ready.
How's my frame, Jonathan? Am I all set to go? Is it good? Okay. Ready, guys? I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I know things. For instance, there's 108 beads on a Catholic rosary, and there's 108 stitches on a baseball. When I learned that, I gave Jesus a chance. But it just didn't work out for us. The Lord laid too much guilt on me. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring, which makes it a lot like sex. There's never been a ball player slept with me who didn't have the best year of his career. Making love is like hitting a baseball. You just gotta relax and concentrate.
We got a call.
This is fun, right?
Hello, caller. Hello?
Caller.
Hello?
Hi, good morning, boys.
Hi, how are you? What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am Russell, and I am from P-Town.
Yay!
Russell from
Hi,
P-Town.
Russell.
What's your guess?
Yeah, what's your guess?
Oh, this is my work phone. Sorry, guys, so you don't have the number.
Right. What's your guess?
Yeah, so the movie is from Bull Durham.
It is Bull
from
Durham.
Bull Durham. I was worried. I thought this was going to be the first one that people might not get, but thank you. Your candle ASAP.
Awesome.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks for playing. There were more calls coming in. I told you
There
people would
there
know
were.
that.
I'm sorry. I just never heard of this movie. I'll give it a watch.
You were one when it came out, is
Right.
why.
Yeah.
You were a literal infant.
Who does that monologue?
Susan Sarandon. This is like peak Susan Sarandon, like circa Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, yeah. We love Witches of Eastwick.
I've actually never seen Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, it's so good.
I
Get
know.
out, Bob. Shut it all down. What are we even doing here?
You had never seen My Cousin Vinny until yesterday.
Mark, not me.
I've actually never seen My Cousin
Speaking
Vinny.
of movies that you have accosted me for not having seen, I watched For Your Consideration this week.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, the David
goddess among
Guest,
people.
Catherine O'Hara. It was so fun because every person that even walked across the street, I was like, oh my god, it's that guy from that thing. It's very star-studded. Yeah.
You guys, we have our third candidate for Select Board joining us this morning. Lise King, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank
Well,
you so
how are
much
you?
for making some time to come talk with us.
It's my pleasure. You guys are like rock stars. This is like exciting.
Oh, that's very sweet. First, I want to say thank you for serving for the 3 years that you've been on the board. I know it can probably be a hassle some of the time.
It's a lot of work.
That's what I wanted
It's a lot more work than actually it looks like from the outside.
Like, as the only one of the three of you that has served on it already, can you tell us a little bit about what that entails? Like,
Sure.
how many meetings a week, how many hours you're dedicating?
First of all, I want to say thanks to you guys as a media person and coming in here and seeing this setup. This is really cool. This is very exciting, and yeah. So first of all, I just want to say this is awesome. Thanks. So the work. Well, from the outside, we show up at the meetings. We have these packets that can be, usually north of 200 pages. Often they're 400 or 500 pages, and we get our agendas and our packets on Thursday, and we have to be ready for the meeting the following Monday. A lot of times there's information in there that, if you read, you study the whole thing, you want to be prepared. You don't just want to vote on stuff that you haven't actually read and understood. And a lot of times there's technical information that you have to absorb, like everything from regulatory processes to, perhaps it's a contract with Comcast or something. Just recently we just signed the contracts with the police union. Those are really important, and it's something that you want to. So you become a good study. If you do the job well, you really get into the weeds. You can ask a lot of questions, but yeah, that part takes a lot of work.
You guys meet every Monday?
We meet the second and fourth Monday of the month.
Okay.
But there's another part to it as well, which is folks know that I'm really responsive. So the more you get a reputation as she'll answer your phone calls, the more they call you.
Right.
So I answer every single email, phone call, text message, Facebook message, and I do it with pleasure. I mean, for me, that's really the fun part of the job, really, more than anything else. I love being there to help folks get involved with the political process, understand how the government works. For example, the recent questions are, what the heck is a 2.5 override? Like, what does that mean, if you guys have been paying attention to the town warrant? And I enjoy kind of the nerdy parts of public policy and getting into the weeds and then explaining it, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Over your term, what was kind of your issue that you feel like you spearheaded the most and you're really proud of?
Wow. So if we hadn't had COVID, I'd have a different answer. I've been really targeting natural resource protection and management, environmental stewardship, climate change preparedness, and I have an article on the warrant that's Article 18 for the town meeting, which I can get to in a second. But the thing, obviously, that eclipsed everything for all of us is COVID. I've been rereading this book that I got when I was on Traveling Press with Obama that he brought to me and signed for me, and I brought it here because it's like a talisman, reminding me why I do the work and what inspired me. And the book is The Audacity of Hope, and I started reading it again when COVID hit, and when we were all so scared and we didn't know what was going to happen. There's like this big storm approaching. I was getting data from my colleagues overseas that was really, really alarming. And so I turned to this book again and started reading it because it started to feel like our world, it was an existential crisis, right? I mean, it's definitely affected us all. Like the whole world got shut down. It was the most bizarre thing that's happened in our lifetimes. And I felt this incredible responsibility to make sure that our community was okay, that we were gonna all be safe here as much as possible. We didn't know how the disease was being transmitted. We didn't know how you treat it. They were triaging ventilators, for God's sakes. There were freezer trucks outside of hospital, outside of all the hospitals in New York City. And I had a lot of sleepless nights, I'm sure other members of my colleagues did as well, but it was a very difficult time. Of course, we know a lot more now, and we've come a long way. They know how to treat the disease. We know how to stay 6 feet apart, and we're all vaccinated, and so that helps. But I'd say that's the most important thing that we worked on this year. And I had someone say to me, "Boy, you guys this year nothing got done. Like everything got put on hold because of the situation." And I said, I have to be honest with you, me and everyone else on the board, and I think everyone in town hall, we worked more hours and we worked with more emotional labor attached to it, more responsibility feeling this year than the other 2 years combined by far. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of hours in consultation and trying to work things out. So I'm very proud of what I did early in the pandemic to kind of, get it to the attention of the public and get us ahead. We were actually ahead of the governor even in putting in a mask order and mm-hmm. putting in safety precautions.
Yeah, the work that you guys did along with the Board of Health, I mean, like we've been crowing about it all year. We're like, P-Town never became a hot spot. Mm-hmm. Like people by and large remained safe. And I know those were tough choices for you to make at the beginning. And you've gotten a lot of pushback from people yes. since then. And and you just reposted that New York Times article.
I did.
And it's interesting how since it was first published, people's memory of it and perception of it seems to have shifted a little.
Yeah, very much.
And
some people.
Yeah.
Certain people. I don't know that that's true of everyone, but
right.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we were watching the panel discussion the other night, and it mm-hmm. got a little heated there at the end. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, we can talk about anything you like. Absolutely. I mean, I'm an open book. There's no question that there have been things that have been very pressure-filled in terms of decision-making. Mm-hmm. What happened in the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, just to revisit that for everyone, because I haven't actually talked about this in public in any kind of direct way, which is in the very beginning, like I said, I was getting data from my colleagues overseas, and my cousin who grew up here in Provincetown, he's a microbiologist, and he's done big work in epidemiology and infectious disease. And I was getting information from him as well. And it was really alarming, like what portended for us coming from what was happening overseas. And I didn't want to post all that data. In hindsight, now I should have just put it all out there and let everyone see what was coming and say, I don't mean to alarm anyone, but this is the storm that's on the horizon. Instead, I called our town manager at the time, who was Robin Craver. I spoke with the chair of our board. I asked him, can we please have an emergency meeting? We need to call an emergency meeting. We need to get in front of this. We don't have the answers, but we need to tell everyone here that we're here for them, that we're going to be paying attention really closely, and we're going to make sure that everyone here is okay. And I felt like that was really important to do. I have a difference in leadership style than the chair of our board, who I respect very much, and I work very well with him now, which is, I'm on the media side. I believe in and I answer every phone call. I believe in what we call high-touch communications, which is you answer every phone call, you get out in front of things, you talk to the media. And his style, which I respect, is a difference of opinion, is more reticent. He's more like, he holds back, which I appreciate. This is not to criticize him, it's different. Mm-hmm. But the select board is not a leader and then 4 members. It is, they say it's like, 5 fingers on the hand, and the thumb is the one that's the chair who gets to set the agendas and run the meetings, but they don't actually tell us what to do. Mm-hmm. We're all independent in terms of our assessments of things, our thought process, the way that we behave, unless there, the town were to vote and say, we don't want select board members to act as individuals. I mean, that would be a pretty outrageous thing to do, but that could happen, I suppose. Otherwise, we're independent actors. When you elect me, you're electing me. You're not electing me to be part of a team where I follow the leader. Mm-hmm. So I called Dave and I asked him, and he said no, he was not interested in having an emergency meeting. And over the course of the beginning of the pandemic, I asked him several times as things ratcheted up. I'd say, now can we have an emergency meeting? He's like, no. Now can we have an emergency meeting? Once we had an outbreak, then we did have an emergency meeting once we finally had cases in town. Mm-hmm. My preference would have been to do that before we actually had cases in town. So I started posting things on Facebook when it was clear that the town manager and our chair were not interested in participating in a public dialogue. And I got a phone call from the New York Times and it's, this is P-Town, we're high profile, but it also happens to be she has spent summers in Truro, so it wasn't a big mystery of how that happened. And she was like, well, I just want to talk about what's happening all over the country and all over the world, that people are leaving the cities where there are outbreaks and they're coming to their second homes or their country, people, it wasn't just second homes. She didn't use that term. She said people are leaving the cities and going out to more rural areas as a way to get away from the pandemic. And I'm interested in talking with you. And what I told her is what you saw in the paper, which is my biggest concern is that we have a very vulnerable population here if you look in terms of like the morbidity of the disease. So many of our residents are over 50. So many of our residents are immune compromised. I was really scared. I mean, I have chills right now. I was really scared. I've lost friends to AIDS. I have a lot of friends who are long-term AIDS survivors. And I don't want to talk about my brother, but it's personal. And I really felt in that moment that in this absence of information, in this absence of anyone stepping forward, that it was important to tell everyone that we're paying attention, that we have you, that we're going to do our best to try to keep you safe. And so that's what I did. And speaking with the New York Times, we ended up having a great conversation. We talked for like 2 hours. It wasn't all interview. I don't think it was kind of like getting to know each other a little bit. And, we have friends in common and stuff because she lives in Truro in the summer. But we talked about a lot of stuff. And the one piece of, I told her a lot of anecdotes about, I'm hearing this from this person and I'm hearing that from that person, because we didn't know what was going on at the time. So the fact that she picked up on that airplanes thing was a little unfortunate because it came from one of our residents who had contacted me and posted on my Facebook wall. And I repeated that anecdote to her as an anecdote, saying this is what happened. It was and it's still on my Facebook wall if anybody wants to go see it. And I repeated it to her and she picked it up and it's in the newspaper. And that was the thing that everyone chose to focus on, that this was, there weren't planes after planes. Well, there were. I ended up going, what do you mean? This woman said this, and I called her and she said there were. So I'm friends with Dan Wolf, who is the owner of Cape Air. So I called him. I was like, what's up? Like, why is this, discrepancy happening? He said, we have these things called touch and goes. There was training runs happening out at the airport, and it can look like a lot of planes because they come down and then they go back up and then they come down and then they go back up. So it was just an unfortunate misunderstanding. And if it caused anyone agita or stress, I apologize for that. It was totally unintended. I was repeating an anecdote, one of many that I told the New York Times reporter. So
yeah, I feel like happened. A lot of people were, because like you said, we didn't know a lot. So, and people were anxious. I feel like a lot of people were latching on to like, I need something to be anxious about. And I feel like that is kind of on both sides of that, seeing the planes and also reading it and then being anxious about the response to it as well.
So the woman who wrote it, and I don't want to call her out here on camera, but she's been very vocal on Facebook about the fact that it was her and that it was, she and her wife were out in the ORV lanes and that she was one who wrote it, and she was very concerned. And, the fact of the matter is we had a big weekend coming up that coming weekend. I think it was a Big Bear weekend that was happening. Yeah. And so there were a lot of people coming to town. So when I said, this is when people were criticizing me, and I said, well, this is a straw man argument because the fact is there were a lot of people coming to town that weekend, planes, trains, and automobiles. And since then, we have had a lot of folks come here. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because we know more and people came in a safe way. And if you read the New York Times article, right under the part where they quote me, they specifically say they're talking about, if you're going, they quoted someone else from like somewhere in New York saying, if you're coming here, quarantine, you can come here, but just be mindful. That's what it was at the time. We didn't know. We really didn't know.
I think if you go down Commercial Street or drive around town, you'll notice that a lot of the businesses in town have Leslie or Ori signs. I think the perception a year ago was that, unfortunately, it felt like a lot of factions in town were being pitted against each other, like the locals versus the second homeowners, businesses versus tourists and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think the perception was that you were sort of anti-business.
I have no idea where that came from.
Right? Can you?
I really
dispel
have.
that?
Yeah, I have no idea where that came from. It's so interesting. As a matter of fact, one of the arguments that I was having with our town manager at the time, Robin Craver, and our chair of the board was the Recovery Coalition that Robin was proposing and putting together, and Leslie Sandberg was involved with that. And what I was saying was, first of all, I thought it was an open meeting law violation, that if you're making public policy, that needs to be done in open meeting as a subcommittee or to the select board. I'll get to that in a second because it turns out I was right. But the argument that I was having was that there were no workers represented at the table and there were no residents represented at the table. And so I was making this big push. I did speak with the bar manager. One of the people I returned his phone calls of was the guy who runs upstairs at the Gifford House. And we were talking a lot and having this conversation. He said, I have a bunch of people who are in this industry who are concerned. And I said, I'm going to bat for you guys. And then the pushback was, well, how do we organize those folks? And he and I spoke, and it was like, he's like, I can get a group of people together. We can choose one person to be on the Recovery Coalition. So I presented a couple of options saying that's an option. And when they were like, well, that's kind of maybe not, I said, well, what about the union leader at Stop and Shop? They have a union leader there that could represent the workers in town. They're frontline workers as well. The whole concept of having the workers represented was denied. It was shut down. And same with residents. That's where maybe their reputation came from, because they were like, their pushback was the businesses represent the workers. While I think that can be true in like some businesses, I don't think that's necessarily true for all. I said, well, if businesses represented workers, we would never, have unions, right? I mean,
I felt the same way when that came. The Recovery Coalition was announced. It was like business owners, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, business owners obviously have a stake in this game, or not game, obviously. But what about they have a financial aspect as well, where what about the dishwasher's opinion who's going to touch every piece of silverware that's been in someone's mouth? Like they're going to have a different perspective than
100%.
Someone who needs restaurants to be open to make a living.
100%. And at that time, it was so early in the game, we didn't know, like, people could be forced to come back to work.
Right.
Either you come back to work or you lose your job, kind of thing. So I was very concerned. I consider myself a true progressive. I'm all about, the working people and taking care of folks. I'm worried about, our income disequilibrium that's happening, the income inequality in this country. And so I'm just naturally going to speak up for people who necessarily aren't going to be at the table to speak for themselves. So I don't know, maybe that's where the reputation came from. Maybe it's because early in the game I was saying we needed to, have, before everything got shut down, like the cities and everything, a lockdown, I was asking for a lockdown before we had a lockdown.
Right.
We ended up needing a lockdown. In hindsight, I kept saying to folks, just like Fauci was saying, the best case scenario outcome is that I've overreacted, or it looks like I've overreacted. And I have to say, all of you guys, I way underreacted. I mean, there's no way we could have predicted where we are now.
A year later.
A year later. It's so much worse. I mean, the number of people lost, over 500,000 people, what we've all been through, people who've passed away, and in my family and probably everyone's, because people die, but they've died alone this year. That's been really, really hard. So, I'm not quite sure. I think maybe there were folks out there who took what I said and ran with it. I don't know. sometimes things get amplified in a direction that you can't control.
Right.
So, oh, and back to that piece about, by the way, I did end up calling the state ethics, and that recovery coalition, this is getting slightly into the weeds, but I'll make it quick. The recovery coalition should have been done under the select board. The town manager has the right to call or convene a group of people anytime for any purpose that is not subject to open meeting law and to therefore the public view, if they have the sole decision-making process for what comes out of that group. And so what I had asserted was, okay, this almost feels like money laundering for public policy. It was like, you guys are making policy decisions in this group that's part of it's under the office of the town manager, and then she's going to make policy recommendations to the select board that came from that group. And so it was a pass-through. And in fact, I found out way later, because I was just, we had so much going on that I didn't make the call to ethics until much later. In fact, because it was not within her sole discretion of how to act on that policy, it took votes of the select board. In fact, it should have been subject to open meeting law, which means that the whole public would have been able to listen into the meetings.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so I think there's a little confusion for some people about like open meeting laws and like how often you guys are allowed to call each other and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, I don't even really know. So,
Yeah.
And when I was watching that debate the other night, I was like, could she have? And then you're like, no, I couldn't have. And it's like, what can you do and what can't you do?
Okay, good question. So the first thing that came up was this idea of executive session. Executive sessions are sessions where the select board has the right, or legally has the right and responsibility even, to go into a closed door session. There's Massachusetts general law that dictates what we can and cannot do. For example, we go into executive session when we're discussing employees, anything that's under HR. If you're discussing someone's contract, that's not subject to public view, right? So that goes on in executive session. You can't just call an executive session because you want to have a private conversation about something. So we couldn't have done that. Calling your colleagues. So open meeting law is an interesting law, and it's there to protect all of you guys. And if you want to talk about CERC, this is the other issue that I had was with CERC. It also should have happened in full view of the public. This was, that's a whole other conversation. But my problem with that whole process was that it happened under cover, where people should have known what was going on. It was a major, major impact on our community. So open meeting law says that they don't want us to have debate or deliberation on any issue without being in full view of the public. That if we're going to discuss something that's going to affect you guys, that's going to affect your ability to open your restaurant because of COVID, or it's going to affect, I don't know, name a topic, that you guys, the public, is supposed to have access to watching us have this deliberation. And that we shouldn't make up our minds on an issue until we're having the deliberation in public. It's a way, you can imagine where this comes from. It's a way to make sure that backroom deals aren't done, right? Mm-hmm. That things aren't decided outside of public view, that things aren't decided before we get into the open meetings and we have an open debate and dialogue, and then we vote. Mm-hmm. So that's what the law is for. And what it does in practical sense, it means that if I want to talk about something that we might be voting on, I can only pick one other person on the board to talk to. Because if you pick more than one other person, you have a quorum.
Right.
And therefore it's called legal deliberation. So these are all things that are part of Massachusetts general law and how it affects like what we do on the select board is an official legal process. Mm-hmm. So we have to follow all these official legal process rules. So that's why it's impossible. That you can't just call up your colleagues and say, hey, there's a pandemic coming. I think that we should do this or this, whether it's talk to the press or whatever. You can't do that. You'd have to do it. You'd have to get on an agenda, which takes a while. You have to have 48 hours notice. That's why we get our things posted on Thursdays for our meetings on Monday. Then you'd have to have an open meeting, and then you'd have to act from there. That's the way it works. And it's set up that way for protection of the public.
And you said you have an article on May 1st's town meeting agenda?
I do. So Article 18 is it's short and sweet, but it's basically a change to our general bylaws. It's a way to set a vision for our town going forward. I'll back up a little. To give you the details, it basically says, it's very short, it basically says that everything that we do going forward within our government processes be seen through the lens of climate change preparedness and impact and natural resource protection. And what that means is that everything we do should be seen with this vision of holding our values. And our values, I believe as a collective, and I think that, I'm hoping everyone votes for it, is that we understand that the reason we're all here at the end of the day is because we're in this beautiful place surrounded on water by three sides, and we value this really magical, natural environment that we are so lucky to live in, and that we need to make sure that what we're doing as a town honors that, respects it, and holds that as our highest value. And I'll give you some examples why that came about, rather than, we all know there's a tension sometimes between profit making and environmental protection and stuff. So sometimes it's also about municipal process. I'll try not to get too much in the weeds, but there were two things that made me want to make that change. One is the Peer Corporation operates as a sole authority. We don't actually have authority as a select board over the Peer Corporation. And I was starting to hear talk about bringing in larger cruise ships. And I know that they say this debate comes up every year and it always gets shut down. I don't want whether or not we have cruise ships, large cruise ships that are polluters. And if you look online, you can look up their environmental ratings, and most of them have terrible environmental ratings. They dump offshore. It's horrible. It's bad for our environment. We need to protect our natural waters here. That I didn't want to leave that to discretion of whoever happens to be, on the Peer Corporation or on the select board, that these kinds of decisions should be made by the town at large. So if we make it part of our general bylaw, it sets a vision saying, okay, select board, when you're making a decision, or okay, Peer Corporation, if you're making a decision, that you need to take into consideration the values that the townspeople have put at the top, which is we want to make sure we're protecting the environment first and preparing for climate change. The other place this came up about climate change was every year we have our budget hearings. It's kind of like the meat and potatoes of the business that we do, where every department head in town comes before us and they present their budget for the next fiscal year, which is what we're voting on at town meeting. So everybody comes to town meeting. That's the other thing I want to make a pitch. A lot of people vote, and not everybody comes to town meeting. It's actually really fun and exciting, especially if you're a wonk. But direct representational democracy, it's really fun. We all get to vote. So the budget hearings that we have, every department head comes before us. And my first year on the board, I was looking at the budgets, and I was looking at what's called the CIP, which is the Capital Improvement Plan. And that projects out 5 years of budgeting of, big capital plans, like where are you going to be doing bigger infrastructure plans that you're going to have to spend more money. And you look at the Capital Improvement Plan for 5 years. And there were some that were coming before us that I was like, hey, did you guys consider climate change impact in your cost? And the first year that I asked every single department head, they were kind of curious, like, what is she talking about? Some of them. And then the next year it was better. And then this year I asked every single one, and they're starting to do it as part of their process. And where it really came to my attention the first year was stormwater runoff management had flatlined. It was the same amount every year, and we had just had those two big storms. So I was like, wait a minute, we just had these two big storms. Don't you think that we're going to have an increased cost in our capital costs over the next 5 years? And that's where the idea came in, that it shouldn't depend upon having me or someone else as a select board member sitting on the board asking these questions, that this should be part of our overarching sort of mainstay of this is how we make our decisions based on keeping this into consideration. So anyway, that's the article.
Can I ask you what you do for a living?
Sure.
What do you do for a living? Because this job feels to me, just from where I'm sitting, like very high hassle, very low reward. And so the fact that you want it again, I'm like, what's wrong with her?
That's a very good question. So, how much time do we have? I want to make sure I don't go on too long.
Much.
Just
Okay.
keep
We're
going.
good. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I'll keep this as brief as I can. So, I'm just going to tell a little story. Back in when I was 24 years old, and I had left Wall Street, where I'd had a job for about a year. I lasted a year doing investor relations after graduating from Mount Holyoke with a degree in history, but really focusing on American social and political history. It's always been my sort of my jam. I was lucky enough to get a job at MTV working on their first big documentary film called Decade. And the part that I was in charge of was called Earth. And so I was producing that particular segment, and I was getting footage in from all over the world. At that point, it was still getting 3/4-inch tapes and beta SPs shipped to us to go through and put together this segment. And one of the pieces of footage I got was from Earth Island Institute in San Francisco that was shot by a guy named Sam Labuddy. And he'd gone undercover on a tuna fishing vessel out of, I think it was Costa Rica. And he had a video camera with him, and he was filming what they called dolphin fishing it was tuna fishing on dolphins. And the tuna run underneath the water, and the dolphins are on top of the water, which is why we have dolphin-safe tuna, right? Because what they were doing is they were doing these huge net catchments where they'd go out and they'd capture everything. They'd get the dolphins on the top, they'd get the tuna on the bottom, and the dolphins were dying. And he got footage of this, and it was brutal. It was brutal footage. And I was so shocked by it that I went to Linda Cordina, who was our executive in charge of production at the time and at News and Specials, and said, hey, I'd like to do some MTV news pieces, Earth news pieces. Told her about the footage. And so she said, okay. And Kurt Loder was my front man. If any of you, I'm aging myself here.
I love Kurt
Loder. And I worked with this guy named Bruce Leddy, who then went on to do Mad TV. He was the director and creator of Mad TV. And he and I put together a series of these environmental minutes. And the first one we did was the tuna fishing on dolphins. We put a 1-800 number at the end, and we ran it over Thanksgiving week. And I got a call the next week from Sam Labuddy from Earth Island Institute saying, it's extraordinary. We've had more phone calls and more help in the last week because of this thing being broadcast on MTV than we've ever had. He's like, it's incredible. At that time, there was a bill languishing in Congress that was the Dolphin Safe Tuna Bill. Mm-hmm. And they credited our MTV piece with helping push public opinion to the point where it passed the bill. And it was extraordinary. Then he won the Goldman Award for environmental journalism, which is like the Oscars of that, of the environmentalists. And I went in as his date. We were like in our 20s. It was crazy. But that was the moment when I said, this is extraordinary. You can really do stuff with this. Like we helped pass policy that was saving dolphins with a television show, And so that's the long story of like where I am today. And that was what got me started, which is I do social impact producing. And that was the moment when I was like, there's really something to this. We can actually make tracks with this kind of work. So my expertise is both in policy, in public policy, and I've worked on so many issues over the years, both at the state, local, federal, and the tribal level. Because for those of you who don't know, I was married to a Native American and lived on the reservation in South Dakota for a number of years. And my children enrolled in the tribe out there. So I did a lot of work at the tribal level, which also is how I got involved in working at the congressional level, because tribes work in Congress is basically their town hall. It literally takes an act of Congress to get anything done for a reservation tribe because it's federal jurisdiction. So I do both public policy and I do media. That's what I do for a living. And I'm a media producer and have done 4 films with HBO. And I'm a consultant. I do media consulting and help with this kind of work. So
I know you're busy. Thank you so much for making some time to come talk with us today.
Are we done?
I think so.
Thank you so much for being so open and honest about everything and wanting to chat about everything.
I'm here, and I'm happy to talk about anything. I mean, I think the bottom line here is like for people to know that this is really what I love to do. I've been doing this since I was in my 20s. I'm a student of American political systems and public policy and in affecting positive change. That's what I really believe in. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, guys. I've made my mistakes. Believe me, there are things even in the last 3 years that I'd go back and do differently, because you learn as you go. You learn as you go. But thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and I'm open. You guys know where to find me. It's a small town.
Right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, everybody, town meeting May 1st.
Yeah, come to town
Vote
meeting.
on May 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for waking up in Provincetown wherever you are. Thank our sponsors, too.
Yes, thank you, Be Well Cannabis, and also the Adam Howard Gallery Workshop.
Metal Working Studio.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week.